That Chewbacca sandwich, I think, would be a hit in my house. Lots of Star Wars fans.
That's pretty. I think you could do it, Nick. I want to see you try it now.
I'll try.
I think you can.
I'm going to send you a photo of my Chewbacca sandwich, and we'll see.
Do it.
We'll see how it comes out. Welcome to the Digital Ministry Podcast. I'm your host, Nick, and I'm here today with Beau Coffron, who is really involved in a lot of really interesting and effective and meaningful areas of social media. So Beau heads the social media team at Life.church. You may know Life.church. It's been one of Beau, you'll probably tell us about this, but I don't know if it was the first, but certainly one of the most influential online church platforms and, growing church network based out of Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. People listening to this might know Craig Groeschel, pastor of Life Church. The YouVersion Bible app came out of that group. So tons of influence there. But you also have, your own kind of social media profiles that I want to get into today. You know a lot about building, gathering audience, engaging audience, which whoever's listening to this is going to be very interested in. So, Beau, thanks for joining me today.
Thanks for having me, Nick. I'm excited to be on here, and I always love having conversations around church social media and what we're learning and what we're trying out, and hopefully it helps some of the people that will be tuning in.
My kids are playing high school sports these days, and my son lost. This is going somewhere, by the way. My son lost a tennis match the other day, and I was like, we always learn more from the losses than the failures, and than the wins rather. And I've often told people that if I can share kind of my perspective, both wins and losses, it's a way to redeem all those mistakes, and people. So you've had, I think, some remarkable experience in your time on social media with Life Church. I'm excited to get into it today. So maybe you can start by just kind of setting the context for us. So you've been at Life Church for a little more than 8 years.
Okay.
Tell us about kind of what you were doing before. How did that come about?
Yeah, I've been in ministry for a little over about 23 years now. So I was a youth pastor for about 15 years before I came to Life Church. And so I was in California. My family was out there. I have 3 kids and just involved in youth ministry. And then out of just being a dad, I started doing social media for not only the youth ministry, but making fun lunches for my kids for Lunchbox Dad, which are like my first kind of venture into doing these social media channels like that, and just learning a lot, and grew to love it. And then my wife and I, we really felt God was kind of closing our time in youth ministry, and we weren't sure what was next. And we were just really looking to Him for direction, and saw the position open at Life Church, and didn't know, besides YouVersion and Pastor Craig Groeschel, we knew that Life Church was an influential church, but we didn't know a lot of the details. Had never been out here to Oklahoma before, and God just really kept opening up the doors. And so it was really the position brought my love for the church together with my love for social media. And so I came on at Life Church a little over 8 years ago. I was the first person that social media was centralized under here. Before me, it was divided. Different responsibilities were divided into different teams. And so then I came on. It was a huge learning experience, and it's been fantastic. I love it. On staff here, just the leadership culture is amazing, and we love Oklahoma, and we've had a lot of extended family move out to Oklahoma because they love Oklahoma so much. So it's been great, and now I've grown from a team of 1 to a team of about 8, and plus interns, and part of the communications team here at Life Church. And so we just have a lot of fun together, just try a lot of different things, and I love that's what leadership lets us do, is like we get to run with ideas and see what works and see what doesn't, and hopefully learn from both of those.
Oh, that's one of the things I love most about your team. Actually, I've done a little work with guys like Bobby, Terry, Brian when he was there, We were talking about this over email. You and I've met at some point. I couldn't recall exactly when or where. I think I might have been up at Life Church, like on campus before you were there. But I walked through and I just saw how the team is so intentional about building culture and reinforcing the culture. It's like a great leadership learning environment. And one of the things that is so, I think, so critical with social media and digital ministry is the need to let a team kind of experiment, fail, learn, come back around for the wins. How does that work within your team? How are you kind of setting that tone for people?
Yeah, I think it all starts honestly with Bobby and Pastor Bobby Grunwald, and just how he, in my meetings with him, he's always asking what we're learning from. Okay, things are up. Great. What are you learning from that? Oh, things are down this month or this quarter. What are you learning from that? So it's not about, oh man, you better be careful. It's like, hey, what are we learning from these things to be able to long-term be able to grow? Yeah. And so that's how I try and lead my team as well. It's like, hey, we certainly could just keep going, kind of like that hamster wheel, which social media kind of feels a lot like that sometimes. But we always want to be looking at, okay, what's the next thing to kind of move us forward? And it's not about the stats or the data. Really, it's because, so we have branding guidelines for social media. One of the first things that you would read on there is that we want our social media place to be a place where people can be pastored in what could be sometimes a very dark place. And so we want the hope of Jesus Christ in their feeds. And so it's not always about how do we move them from here to our website, although that's definitely part of it. It's first and foremost, like, there's people that are in need out there. There's broken people. There's people that just need this hope of Christ. And so how are we helping pastor them in those moments? And if there's platforms we need to be on, great. That's kind of how we got on TikTok, where we felt like, hey, there's all these people on TikTok a couple of years ago, and not a lot of churches yet. And so we jumped on it early, did some experimenting, and grew our presence there. But it wasn't to grow and have a big account with lots of followers. It was like, how can we reach more people that need the hope of Christ? And the cool thing is I would say over the last 2 years, we've seen so many people come to our physical locations because they either saw Pastor Craig's TikTok channel or Life Church's TikTok channel, and they have they get there, and the pastors might be like, "Hey, how'd you hear about us?" They're like, "We saw this on TikTok, and we saw that there was a location near us, and we needed to come check it out in person," which is always awesome to hear.
So yeah, TikTok's not all bad, guys. For those out there listening, you guys are doing some good work there. I want to back up for a second and go back to Lunchbox Dad, because I think this is super interesting. And a lot of the ministries that MII works with have kind of like campaigns or initiatives that they will launch, which is kind of more like Lunchbox Dad, which is your social media profile on, I think, all the channels, right?
Yeah, all the channels, yeah.
Somebody looks at Lunchbox Dad, they can find you and see what we're talking about. But that's kind of like a brand and a channel in and of itself. And that seems like an analog to what some of these campaign initiatives looks like for most ministries that we work with. We're trying to reach into, different parts of the world, rather than kind of like running social media for the whole Life Church. But tell us just briefly kind of how that started, and the experience of gaining really the audience and the following that you have there now, which is pretty significant.
Yeah, absolutely. It was, so my daughter, my oldest child is my daughter. She is 17 now, almost 18. She's a junior in high school. And when she was starting kindergarten, I had actually, right before that, my dad had passed away. And so I was kind of wrestling with a lot of stuff there. And she was starting kindergarten. I was thinking, okay, you're starting kindergarten. what are some ways that I could show you that your dad loves you and thinks about you as you're going to be now entering this new adventure, for part of the day. And so I saw some moms making these fun character themed lunches online, and I thought, hey, I'm a dad. Why can't I do this? I don't see dads doing it. And so we tried it out. Our first Monday at school, I gave her a Hello Kitty themed lunch, and she loved it. Gave us something to talk about. People at her class loved it, and so I decided to do it every Monday that she was in school, and do a different themed lunch. And I started a blog back when blogging was huge among and growing among the dad area and huge among the mom area. And so I started with the blog just as more of a record to keep track of like pictures and what I was doing with the recipes and stuff. And then people started getting a hold of it and seeing it. And so then I expanded to social media from there. I started with Facebook. And so that was kind of a natural place to start back then. And went to Pinterest and Instagram, and then just kind of expanded. And then from there, looked at ways, and we got some media coverage and things like that. But I was constantly looking for ways to get better and experiment with it. And so started looking into strategy and how to build engagement and following and things along those lines. And so that was a lot of fun for me. And more kids came along. I have 3 kids now, and I make it the lunches for them almost every Monday that they're in school. And we miss a Monday here and there, but we have a lot of fun with it. But as anyone who's out there knows, when you have a young child, when you have a baby, it's like you're not getting a lot of sleep. Yeah. And so especially with my youngest child, he didn't like to sleep a lot. And so there'd be a lot of late nights, me, where I'm holding him, trying to get him to sleep. But then on the other hand, I have my laptop and I'm looking up different strategies and writing different things. And so it kind of extended the hours of my day that I had to spend on this stuff that I was having a lot of fun with and developed a passion for. Like I said before, that's how I got here to Life Church. And so with the following that grew, and just took some of the learnings there. And really, I learned how to, I think, one of the big things was, okay, yes, it's about, at its core, Lunchbox Dad was about being a father, having kids, and helping them, and maybe helping some other parents out there. But it's like, okay, then what does that mean for developing an audience and realizing that I'm running, and when it came to Life Church, or it came to doing some other stuff on different channels, like it's not about me, it's about the organization. Sure. And it's about reaching people through there. And so that's what we found a lot working at Life Church here too, is as we've expanded. So we have about 35 channels now that my team is in on a daily basis. And so that are not all branded Life Church. People might be following them out there and not even know it. But really, like a lot of the posts, my team, it's not like this is what we prefer as a person. But it's like, this is what's reaching people. Then that could be design or fonts or whatever it might be. But it's like, hey, this is really connecting with people. So let's run with this design right now. Even though we personally might not like it at all. But it's about what's it going to take to reach people out there. And I think that's really too, as I've worked with other people, like influencers or content creators, I think the key is remembering that it's about their audience, not what I prefer. And so if I'm doing, let's say a collaboration on Instagram, Lunchbox Dad and another content creator, it's like finding that balance there of what's going to reach people, but hey, it's going on their channels, letting them run with the creative behind it. Right. And really figuring that out.
So if people listening or watching on YouTube aren't one of the, 500,000 people that are following, one of these channels, just to give a little context, I mean, you've got over 100,000 followers on Lunchbox Dad, this food art Instagram channel, which, by the way, before you got on, I was checking it out, and I was like, oh, I was trying to find one that's easy enough for me to do. That Chewbacca sandwich, I think, would be a hit in my house. Lots of Star Wars fans.
That's pretty. I think you could do it, Nick. I want to see you try it now.
I'll try.
I think you can.
I'm going to send you a photo of my Chewbacca sandwich, and we'll see.
Do it.
We'll see how it comes out. And then, almost 500,000 just on your Life Church Instagram. But what I'm struck by what you just said is you've got an 8-person team, 35 different channels. And the key, if I heard you correctly, is to understand what the audience on each of those channels values. How in the world do you guys learn that fast enough to apply it and kind of stay up to speed with all of that? How do you?
Well, that's a good question. And so we keep track of, so we have a team. Let me back up a little bit. So there's also someone that's not directly on my team, but that's on our Life Church Online team, who's our community engagement pastor for social media. And she does a fantastic job. And it's about, she leads a team of about 100 or so volunteer leaders that respond to comments. And so it's really being in those comments, being in the direct messages, knowing what people are struggling with, knowing what's connecting with people there. And so she's able to give us lists of like really keyword felt need topics and things like that we could run with, and things along those lines. But just knowing that they're being pastored as well, and right there in the feed, which I think is great, whether that's publicly or privately through DMs. And then on the more public facing side, we're looking at, so we have these non-branded channels, and we started these a number of years ago. And so some of them are much bigger than the Life Church, some of them channels, some of them are much smaller. So I only say that to say that it runs the gamut there. Sure. And a lot of what we do on there is be able to try different things, whereas the Life Church channel is more about include some branding guidelines that we stick to. And anyone from an organization that's out there probably knows, has their own branding guidelines, like, okay, this color, not this, or whatever it might be, or this tone of voice. And so there's things that we always want to stick to on the Life Church channels, but there's wiggle room there with social media where we know, like, hey, there might be a trend that comes up that's popular that we can jump on. But a lot of it is kind of like the week-to-week grind, where we're using these non-branded channels to experiment with different colors, shapes of posts, types of videos, fonts, things like that. And then using our learnings there to move that over to the branded channels and thinking through, okay, how might this work over here to reach more people with this other audience? And so it's some of it's, it's a lot of work, but some of it's just simple. And here's the cool thing is that a lot of what we find time and time again is that simple is better. And so it doesn't need to be this hugely overly designed graphic to reach people. It could just be a white background with black lettering, high contrast. It's easy to read. That's going to stop in people's feed, and they get that hope from scripture or a sermon quote, and it really speaks to them. Really, it's the Holy Spirit speaking through them or through the graphic to them.
Right.
And so it's one of those things. And, one of the tools we use all the time is Canva, and Canva's great at it. And so it's really fun, like simple tools that are available to everyone. And I'm a horrible designer, so I'm very thankful for tools like that can help not only our team, but churches around the world be able to do this in a really simple and easy way.
Do you know Roger Coles? You know that name?
Yes. Yeah, I know Roger. Yeah. I've met him personally a few times.
Yeah. So
I know he's a huge Canva fan.
Oh, that guy's done actually, he and I were in him here. We've done some work together, but look up Roger if you're listening to this and you don't know who I'm talking about. Sure stuff on Canva and then presenting it in such a clever and fun way. It's just his video.
Oh yeah. He's fantastic. I get to watch his videos all day.
And this is what I tell people all the time. It's like, you need graphic designers still for other stuff, for like heavy lift stuff, but for social media, Canva is crushing it right now. So that's interesting.
Yeah, definitely.
So, a bottom up and kind of a top down strategy is kind of what's emerging in my mind. I mean, to have 100 volunteers or so kind of surfacing keywords. Hey, here's what's resonating with people. Here's what people are talking about. What's that look like? Is that a weekly rhythm that you guys have with the leader of that team, or?
Yeah, so they are those volunteer leaders. These are people that we find them because they're passionate on social media, about social media, and they're on social media. And so for someone out there, maybe you are leading social media for a church or an organization, look for those people that are already commenting on your channels, and they might be a great volunteer leader. And there are people who maybe they can't go and serve on a weekday, but there might be like a single or like a mom with a young child who's up, at 11 p.m. at night, they can help answer comments, and that's a way that she serves. And I just see it as another opportunity for people to be able to serve, whether that's in the church or parachurch organizations or other organizations. And so they are divided. Our volunteers are divided into, they have different days of the week they serve. And some of those are more heavy when we know, like, our pray for you, like, how can we pray for you? Those folks are some of our most volunteer heavy days, because we want to make sure that everyone that puts a request in gets prayed for by an actual person. And so that's huge for us. And so that's part of those pastoring moments. And so we want to make sure that people are being prayed for personally. But then we use tools like Sprout Social that can also help arrange those keywords for us, or finding those felt needs. And then our community engagement pastor will put those together, and then we'll talk through them in weekly team meetings that we have.
Is Sprout like surfacing keywords that are reappearing commonly? Or do you have to go in?
I believe it can. And then there's also, you can set keywords, so it kind of looks out for them.
Okay.
And organizes them for you on the back end.
That it's kind of the fundamentals, I mean, how can I pray for you? Such an engaging question. I mean, how often does your team get turned down for that? Do people say, no, don't pray for me?
Yeah. If they do, they just scroll on by, and that's their way of saying no.
Right.
And we get DMs sometimes, every once in a while, from people that are kind of like, I mean, social media can be a really kind of rude place sometimes. And it's funny because sometimes we'll get DMs from people, and they'll get a DM back, and they won't realize that it's an actual person DMing them back. And so they just think it's a bot, because it's like, oh, this is Life Church, it must be a bot. When it's an actual person, and when someone actually responds in another way to them, they're like, oh, I'm so sorry, I didn't realize it. But even those could open up conversations. And hopefully they walk away knowing that Life Church cares about them, and that Jesus cares about them, and there's a place for them here.
My last company was a marketing technology software company, and we did a ton of work with Salesforce, and they were actually a customer of ours, and it was their data that they brought back, like using our tool, they reported back to us, which is great, because then you got these pros that are telling you like how your stuff should be used. And they found a 45% increase in sales conversions whenever they did personalization, whenever they included some kind of personalized, either this is my name, or, communicating in some way that they understood that you're a real person, and that you have needs, and they know what those needs are. We're not selling anything here, obviously, but what you just said reminds me of that, when people are engaged by an actual person and there's some level of personalization, it totally changes the tone of the conversation. And that's, I think, so rare. So it's refreshing to hear that your team is engaged with that. I should ask you this.
And also with Pastor Craig's social media channels, people are surprised to learn that he looks at every post before it goes out. And he gives us ideas to post and pictures to post and things like that. And so he's very involved on a personal level. And it's not because he loves social media so much. It's because he cares about the people that are there. And he cares about reaching them with the hope of Christ. And he, when he gets comments, every once in a while he'll go on Instagram and stuff and read some comments and reply to people. And those comments, it's not just about, the amount of followers. It's not about that for him. It's about the one person who is like, I'm struggling right now. I need to talk to a pastor. Pastor Craig, are you there? Or, the people that are like, thank you so much for the sermon. The Holy Spirit just really spoke through it. And it's really the one that he is concerned about on there. And it goes back to that personalization, just how much it means for that one-to-one connection.
I think you're touching on something that I think is I just want to kind of tease out a little bit. I've been in a lot of conversations in the past where I've talked about, I mean, I even actually presented on this yesterday with a business group here in town. Like it's really hard for a person to build a relationship with a brand. And you even think about like, the largest brands like Apple, Nike, whatever it may be. I don't really have a relationship with that brand. I might have some brand loyalty, and they certainly have brand equity, but that gets really amplified whenever I'm interacting with people that share that affinity. So there's like this community aspect, because relationship happens between people, not between a person and a brand necessarily. It's encouraging to me to hear that even Craig is, reviewing that stuff, because that's the opportunity there, is to begin relationship, with not just a personality, but a person. I think you're spearheading that well. Thank you for doing that.
Well, we had another story really quick. Was we just opened up our newest campus in West Palm Beach, Florida. And on the paid marketing side, there was some Facebook ads going out to people around that area. And it wasn't Pastor Craig's face. It wasn't about Life Church, but it was the campus pastor there that was showing up with his face with a video inviting people to church. Yes, it was the paid side, but people were seeing this so much. And literally there were so many stories that came in on that first opening weekend of, I saw your face so much on my Facebook feed, I had to come check this out in person. And that base just makes such a difference, because people feel like there's actually a real person on the other side of the screen, and it's not a brand, it's not a building, it's not an organization. And that might be true that it's not the campus pastor for one location. For Life Church, it's about Life Church, it's about the mission and bringing people to the hope of Christ. But on a local, personalized level, it's about that team that's there on the ground, that someone can go up and shake their hand or get a hug or whatever it might be, and the love and care that goes in on a week-to-week basis.
How much are you and your team looking at the crossover between online audience and in-person contacts?
That's a great question. We are trying to get better at that. I would say, when you're talking about what can we learn from mistakes as well, I think that we've not done a great job in tracking people from online social media to physical location, or even Life Church Online and things like that. And that's one of our goals this year, is trying to get better at that. And so one way that we're doing that is we're experimenting with a tool called ManyChat. And so we're opening that up on our non-branded channels, and to be able to auto DM people when they do like a keyword. They might accept Christ in a video, or want to know more about a specific book, or things like that. And so then we're trying to send them into an email flow on the Life Church Online side that will help that develop that relationship. And so that's one way that we're doing it. And we're trying to work really close with Life Church Online there for that. But then also just really talking with our different locations and seeing, okay, what are people coming from that you hear? Because they're the ones that are on the ground every weekend, talking with people, meeting new people. And we're trying to figure out, okay, like TikTok has been a big driver for us in people seeing our TikTok videos on either our Life Church TikTok channel or Pastor Craig's TikTok channel, and them going and finding a location near them and going and starting to become not only an attender, but serving and things like that, and really becoming involved in all from a TikTok video, which I think is huge. And now we can't track all that. Some of that's anecdotal, but I think both the data tracking and the anecdotal are both important.
So what's the trigger on the ManyChat thing? Is it their post?
So let's just say that Pastor Craig comes out with a new book. And so we might have something in there that's, hey, comment book and find out more information about the book or how to order it or whatever. And so this is specifically on Instagram. And so then when they comment book on that specific post, they'll get an auto DM with a welcome message and a link, so they can click through to that. And then there might be other flows that you set up where, okay, hey, did you have a chance to check out that book yesterday? How did it go? And then eventually, so we're working out, okay, at what point does I think auto DMs are great to a certain extent, but at what point does a real person need to step in? And what kind of triggers that? So we're learning. We don't have it right, but we're experimenting with different things like that to try and be able to track someone's spiritual journey from social media to maybe creating a profile on the website or whatever that means for physical location attendance. And that's kind of hard because of privacy laws and things like that. And as we know, it's like, hey, it can be really tough to track that accurately sometimes. And so we're just doing the best we can with the tools that we have. And hopefully a year from now, we'll know a lot more. We're kind of in an experimental phase there.
Something I've been thinking about recently is auto dealers are doing this in kind of an interesting way because, say you're looking at Chevrolet cars or whatever, they are selling, you can't buy directly from Chevrolet, but you have to buy from your local dealer. But normally maybe it's because I live out west and, it's such a large area, but they'll give me like 5 cities within, a 300-mile radius of where I actually am. And they'll say, which one of these do you prefer, like in terms of location? And then it's all opt-in. And then I've noticed that everything, all of the email messaging, all that nurture stuff, then it gets shaped to my local dealer.
Unless you order from Tesla off their website, and then you can you skip the local dealership. However, you will get a personal text message from someone local that could offer to answer questions, test drive, anything like that. And that's a local actual person. That goes back to the personalization that you're talking about.
I love that you guys are using tools to enable that and just provide a more personalized experience it's helping, what is otherwise kind of this internet existence in the ether, personal and real and leading to, physical face-to-face relationships eventually. I should have asked you this before, but I can go either way, depending on your answer.
Okay.
Have you read the book Anxious Generation that just came out recently?
I have not.
It's this book by Jonathan Haidt, I think is the guy's name. I recommend it. Like it's incredible about, the book is about, we've given, Gen Z is this first generation that has really grown up with smartphones and probably too prematurely. And it's just an examination of some of the mental health challenges that we see that are really growing. A lot of kind of he gets into one chapter about kind of the breakdown of social structures and foundations, like spiritual foundations, family foundations. And he's not, he says in the book, he's an atheist, but he uses spiritual language, specifically in chapter 8. I've been going through it recently and I'm really curious about this idea. So even if you haven't read it, so many people have had this negative experience with social media. As outlined in this book, Anxious Generation, females tend to go towards comparison, self-image kind of stuff, kind of unhealthy places there. Young men tend to go towards, like engaging with violence, even like a lot of pornography. Like there's a lot of stuff about, how these devices have really kind of, hijacked kids' childhood and like development years. With so much, so many followers, so much interaction with people online, you and your team must deal with these challenges. You mentioned a couple of times, this is why I'm asking you about it, because you mentioned a couple of times, like the internet can be a really dark place. And there's unfortunately, a lot of spiritual leaders, Christian, even influencers and influential voices in the Christian spaces for the last, decades have really sometimes have taken a position of like anti-technology, anti-social media position. I'm looking for your reaction on all of this and how you kind of square that with the work and some of the fruit that you're seeing through your ministry that you've shared with us so far. Like what's your reaction to that? One, the people that kind of say we shouldn't be involved at all, but then this ministry that's happening that's bringing people out of some places?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think that's something that, I think sometimes there's people that they have legitimate reasons for not being on social media. Maybe it's just too much, or there might be impulse control issues with like saying stuff that they shouldn't say, interacting in conversations that they shouldn't be in, and things like that. And so I think there are legitimate reasons for different people not to be on social media. I think on the other hand, or let me move back just for a minute, that as a parent of teenagers, this is something that my wife and I talk about all the time, of just how, and Pastor Craig has talked about it from, during different sermons and messages, just about how we're raising up a generation that we're like, hey, here's this gateway to the world where you can access wherever you want, whatever you want, whenever you want, whether that's pornography or anything else that are just unhealthy relationships. And so I think that, like with my kids, and it's hard and it's draining to try and put safeguards on there, but we have to. We know as parents that that's part of our responsibility, and so we do the best that we can and pray for our kids a lot. But also use the tools that are available to us to be able to track where they're at, and make sure that they don't have access to certain apps and or limited access. And so there's teenagers that just need those safeguards in their life, where as parents, it's part of our responsibility. Growing up, I didn't have a smartphone. I can't imagine what that temptation might be like. However, as a church, we have also seen the opportunity that's there to reach people that need to know that God loves them no matter what they've done, that there's a place for them in church to explore their faith. And because that opportunity is so great, we can't not be on there. And there might be times where we are not on every channel and I think that's what organizations and churches need to decide, like, where are you going to put, where's most of the momentum, first of all? Where's the highest ROI going to be? Maybe it's not on every channel, but it's, we're going to put our energy into this channel and this channel and try and do the best that we can on those. And there was a time a couple of years ago where we decided to get off of what was now X, used to be Twitter, and not be active on there anymore as a church. We just felt like the ROI wasn't there. And we were for years have had a hard time gaining traction on there. We just weren't a church that could do that. And so we talked to Pastor Craig, and he was all for it. And so we are not active on X. And so that was before all the controversy with Elon Musk and stuff. And so It wasn't because of that. It was before that. And there was also a time where we TikTok, when we first started TikTok, we're like, we need to be on there because there's so many people that need to hear about Jesus on there. But we need to, this is before we became inactive on it, but we're like, let's pull back some on the energy that we're putting into Twitter so that we can put more energy into getting TikTok off the ground. And so we just saw that it was gaining momentum there and wanted to pour more energy and resources into it. And so you kind of got to decide, like, okay, there's this opportunity to reach people in a lot of different ways. Is an online ministry like social media the place that you're going to find the most momentum for your organization, your church? And if so, I think that the bar is so low in starting it and getting, getting going on there, because we have all these tools. The same thing that could be just really damaging, that's uncontrolled to people right here. We have these tools right here where anyone can start and build an audience on there to hear about the hope of Jesus, just with a simple phone. And I think that's what's amazing about the age that we live in, is that God has given us these tools at this moment in time for a reason. What are we going to do with that? And for some of us, that means getting on social media and starting these channels and trying out different things. And so that's what I love about the opportunity that's there. Now, there's different opportunities for different organizations offline that are powerful and amazing, and we need to pour more resources there. But for my team, we just see the incredible opportunity God's given us right now online through social media, and we can't ignore that.
Well, and for those that might be listening, trying to figure out those answers to those questions for their same organization. I think you've shared a lot of great insight today. So thanks, Beau, for spending some time with me and doing this.
Thanks so much, Nick. Yeah, I love talking about it. So, I mean, I could talk all day. I know people don't want to probably hear me talk all day on a podcast for 7 hours, but I love these conversations, and I love exploring where church and faith-based ministries can go online to reach more people.
I don't know. Maybe we'll do a 7-hour session one time. Oh, man, thanks. Keep up the great work, and God bless you and your team with all that you're doing.
Thank you. You too, Nick.